Good evening. Welcome back to another episode with Cooking with Stir Crazy. My name is Jody O'Connor, and we'll be showing you how to make some awesome butternut and ricotta tortellinis cooked in some sage and butter sauce. Firstly, I'm going to go through the ingredients that is needed for the recipe today, as well as the equipment that's needed, and then we'll get started with everything that's needed. Firstly, if you come take a look here, if you are looking for the recipe, it is on our website, but this is the ingredients that you'll be needing. You'll be needing some butternut or pumpkin, whichever one you want to cook. I'll show you how to cook this. I've already pre-cooked some, but I'll show you how to prepare this. Then you're going to need some olive oil. Then you're going to need a small red onion, as you can see, a little one over here. Then we're going to need a little bit of ricotta. I'm using feta as I prefer it. It's got a better flavor to it, but you can put ricotta or feta in, it doesn't really actually matter. Then you're going to need a little bit of parmesan. You're going to need to add that. Then you're going to need a little bit of nutmeg, just a little bit, as you can see there, just about a teaspoon. You're going to need 2 tablespoons of chopped sage, as you can see, nicely chopped sage. And then you're going to need your pasta. Now obviously it says you need some fresh pasta sheets. We have made some pasta, which I will show you to you exactly how it's done and how it's made, and we'll go from that point. Next, you'll need 1 egg to close up the actual little tortellinis we'll be making, as well as you'll need some butter, and you'll need some more sage to actually make the sauce from. And then you'll need some parmesan. You'll need some parmesan to drizzle on top of it at the very end of it. All right. In terms of equipment that you need, you're going to need a mixer. You can make the pasta by hand if you want to, but trust me, it's far better to use a machine to do it. If you have a pasta roller for the machine, even better, makes your life much easier. The other most important thing when it comes to making pasta is having a pasta roller. You could do this by hand if you're using a rolling pin, but trust me, that is a lot of arm work, a lot of hassle that can come out of that. So try and get yourselves either a pasta roller, or get yourself an attachment for the mixer itself. You're going to obviously need some mixing bowls. You're definitely going to need a masher just now as well as a pot for cooking and a frying pan for cooking as well. Right, and then when it comes to the actual pasta itself, you literally need a little bit of flour and an egg and a little bit of water. It's as simple as that to make pasta. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do the pasta, because the pasta needs to rest for at least anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour, depending on how much you are making. The amount we are making only needs to sit for about 15 minutes. So it's quite simple. The recipe is a very simple recipe. Just think of one. You need 100 grams of flour, and that can be any flour. You need 1 egg, and that's pretty much the basics of pasta. It's pretty straightforward there. You'll need a little bit, probably about 1 teaspoon of oil, and a little bit, probably also about maybe 1 teaspoon-ish of water as well. But that all depends on how the flour absorbs the oil and the egg first. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to quickly make a pasta. All we're going to do is we're going to stick it into the machine. Pretty straightforward. You take your flour, you throw it in there, you take your egg, you crack it up, put it in there. Note I am using a dough hook to make it. You don't want to be whisking this because it's going to be making a dough. And then first thing you do is you close this all up and you allow this to start going. Again, just to start, whenever you're making a dough, you slowly start mixing it, making sure the egg gets nicely hooked in there, and you allow this to go. There's cracked up egg there. Seems to be quite stubborn today. There we go. You don't want this to be going too fast, because you don't want it to go all over the place. And then what we're going to do is we're also going to take that 1 teaspoon of oil, and we're going to plop that in as well. There we go. So we'll just mix it in nicely. There we go. Get the flours and everything mixed in there. Let's speed it up a little bit. There we go. So just like with your breads, we get everything starting to mix nicely, and then we take it out. Make sure that anything on your hook is off. Get it all down there. So now that I've started the process, now I'm going to show you how to do it, or how to continue if you did not have a pasta make. Oh, Kenwood, a mixer.
Sorry guys, my gimbal is playing up a teeny tiny bit, so I'm having to use the joystick.
Alright, so if you come take a look, you'll notice how everything is in there. It's still quite floury. You basically just squeeze it all together and it should start coming together quite nicely. Just like that. As you can see, it's starting to form a nice solid little ball. Just like that. Then we can take this out, put it onto the counter. All the flour and everything in there. Get it off your fingers. Then this is where that little bit of water comes in. And just take a little bit here. You drop a little bit of water into the center like that. As you can see, it was a very tiny bit, probably a half a teaspoon. And now we start mixing all the flour and everything together.
In your V formation.
In your V formation, that's it. Alright, bring it all together. And you mix this as quick and easy as that. And this is how you make pasta. As simple as that. This is one of the most simple things you could make. This is more simple to make than it is to make a bread, believe it or not.
No, well, bread's complicated. Well, at least I find bread complicated.
Alright, so this is obviously how you would continue. You'd continue until this turns into a nice soft dough. So if you point yourself to this way, you'll see that's how it will come out eventually. So you just continue kneading it for about 5 to 10 minutes, and that's all the bread needs. And then you wrap it up. As you can see, it's been wrapped up in plastic, and that will just stay like that for at least 10 to 15 minutes. The pasta itself does expand slightly, so not a lot at all. Oh, you're touching the pasta.
It's springing back. It's quite cool, actually.
Yes, and then it needs to rest for at least 10 minutes. As you can see, I've made quite a lot over there.
It's because he has to feed 4 adults and a child.
That's it. So then once after about 10 minutes of kneading it and another 10 minutes of just letting it rest, you could save this pasta for up to a week if you really wanted to. Do not freeze it. Just keep it in your fridge, wrapped up nicely like this. Relatively tight. Don't try to squeeze the living air out of it. But just tighten up where it wraps nicely. As you can see, a nice sheen around there, and it's quite nice. And then that, you can make anything from that. You can make linguine from that. You can make spaghetti from that. You can make tortellinis, raviolis, bow ties. Anything you would want, you can make from this pasta. This is a pasta, fresh pasta. When it comes to the actual rolling process, which I'll get to in a few minutes, you can roll it in any way, and once you've done it and you want to keep it for a long time, you can take a string or rope and you can tie it across in your kitchen. If you look at this kitchen, you could probably tie it across from one side to the other side. And then once you've rolled your pasta and you've got the thickness you want, you can gently hang it over it and allow it to dry out. The only reason you would do that is because you've made pasta, or a large amount of pasta. You obviously can't eat it in 1 or 2 days. Then you would take the pasta, you would dry it out, and you could keep it for anywhere from a month to 3 months if you dry it out properly. So obviously, the longer you want to keep it, the longer you dry it for, just like with normal pasta as well. But one thing you'll notice that's a very big difference is in its fresh form, as it is right now. Obviously, once you've made, let's say in our case, we're making tortellinis. Once you've made this, it will cook extremely quickly. Even if it's in its spaghetti form, even quicker. Literally, when I say quickly, I'm talking about 30 seconds to a minute. That is extremely quick when it comes to a pasta. And that's also a great thing about pasta, especially making it fresh, is it's not as long as you think it is. A lot of people think, oh, pasta making long, you've got to be in the kitchen for hours. Absolute max. If you're making like a spaghetti, you could make a fresh pasta just before you've started making anything, and then let it sit, and by the time you actually need it, you quickly roll it and you cook it, and not only will be quicker in cooking, it will taste a lot better because you can add flavors to there, and you can have the pride of knowing that you made that pasta from scratch on your own. And it's really cool, it's really worth it. Alright, so that's essentially what you can do with pasta. So before I jump onto the next little bit, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're starting to do. We are starting to host cooking classes that you can start joining us online with. It is really cool. We can do private sessions. And you can choose any type of theme or any type of food that you would like for us to do in the class. You can join us virtually like this, so you can have a chef like myself in your kitchen helping you cook whatever meal you would like to do.
Virtually in your kitchen.
Obviously. And then obviously we can do whatever you'd like. We also are doing cooking classes, so not anyone, but yes, anyone could join the cooking classes. It doesn't have to be a private class. You can join us on our team's platform, and we'll be able to cook again with either myself or Brent virtually online, and you can join us cooking any type of classes or themes. So just like our normal cooking classes, but now we are going to the virtual side of things. So you can join us from anywhere in the world, doesn't matter, and you can join us and you can create awesome dishes with us at any time you want. Right? Have a look at our website, all the information is there, and then we can go from there. Give us a shout if there's anything you would like to do. Give us a shout and we can try and accommodate you as much as we can.
That would actually be really cool during lockdown, because you can connect with your family members all over the world and do a cooking class together.
Exactly.
Oh, that's cool.
That is cool.
Good job, guys.
Right, so the next little bit is quite simple. What you're going to be needing to do is you'll be taking your butternut. Now, as you can see, I've pre-cooked my butternut because obviously butternut does take a bit of time to cook. But what you'll be doing is pretty straightforward. As you can see, I've cut my butternut into nice little cubes. And what you're going to be doing is obviously you're going to peel your butternut, cut it into these cubes as is. Then you're going to put it into a pot. You're going to boil it until it's about halfway cooked. Don't want to do it completely cooked because you want it to have a little bit of flavor to it. If you want to, you could completely cook it by water, but you'll need to allow it to drain in a colander or something for at least about 10-20 minutes, just to try to get as much moisture out as possible. The reason being is the actual butternut itself, if it's too much moisture in there, when you make your tortellinis, they're going to be very soggy, and you don't really want that to happen. So once they've cooked about halfway, you're going to drain them out, like what I've done over here. You'll put them into an oven tray and into the oven at 180, 190 for about, let's say 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. A little bit of oil. If you want to add any other flavors, such as salt, pepper, Cajun spice, biltong, whatever you would like, you can throw it in at that point and I'll together. Once that's done, after it's been cooked, you'll notice that the butternut itself will get a slight little browning on them. It will also get a nice a flavor, like a roast flavor. And that's obviously what you're generally looking for when you're making something like this. But again, you don't have to do that. That's just adding a little bit of flavor and adding an extra step to it. It is outlined in the recipe, if you guys have the recipe with you, exactly how to do it as well. So as I say, I've already cooked mine, so I'm ready to go from this point. So what I'm going to be doing from this point is I'm just going to be cutting up the onion. I'm going to be chopping up, I'm going to be frying it up, and then all the other ingredients pretty much get mixed straight into it. Okay.
All right, Geraldine has a question.
Yes.
Would you guys consider doing a class on molecular gastronomy in the future?
Yes, definitely we would. And it has been something we have discussed. We do know a few people that have dabbled in the molecular gastronomy as a whole. I have dabbled a very little bit in it, but I understand it. If you are keen on it, I'd suggest that you give us an email, because we could always set up a virtual class like what we're doing now with a chef who's specialized in molecular gastronomy. So give us an email and then we can get back to you on that one. Right, the next little dish, the next little thing is we're going to take our onion, we're going to cut it straight in half. We just need our half an onion for this dish. Do our little cutty things, take it all off, leaving that little end piece on. You're going to peel the outer layer of skin, because obviously you don't want that in your food. Come on, there we go. There we go. And then you're going to cut down the center like that, not all the way through, and then a little bit higher, and a little bit higher again. Then you got to cut straight down. Cut a little bit down again. And then turn it to the side. And then continue cutting that way. As you can see, super quick chopped onion. And you can just chop the last little bit like that.
Oh, it freaks me out when you do that.
Do it.
Oh, it's so close to your fingers.
Alright, and there you go, super quickly chopped onion. Now what we're going to do is we're going to be taking a pan. We're going to get the gas going. Make sure there's nothing plastic lying around. There we go. Let's switch them on where we go. There we go. Make sure your handle's out the way so you don't bump it.
There we go, Tess.
Alright, so you're going to allow that to get a little bit warm. Then you're going to take olive oil. Now you can choose to either do this in olive oil or butter. Olive oil is obviously going to add that nice olivey flavor to it. And also it's a little bit more healthy than butter. I did say a little bit. Alright.
I was about to say butter is life.
Alright, so once you're going to get this nice and hot and nice and steamy, you're going to take your onions, you're going to throw your onions in there, you're going to saute them just a little bit. You do not want them to brown, you're purely sweating them off, but just slightly. Once that's done, then you're going to take your fried onions, throw it into your mash, your butternut. So while this is frying, we're going to mash it up, and then we're going to start mixing everything together. Alright, so this is ready now. And also again, if you wanted to add anything to it, any spices or anything, this is obviously the point you would do it. So now we just throw that in there. Just like that. And then just toss it around a little bit.
Yes, Joanne, I agree. Butter is delicious.
Yes, it is. Alright, so we're just going to let that fry off. And then we can just turn the pan down just a little bit, because again, we don't want this whole thing to burn or brown. So in our bowl, you can see there's a little bit of moisture in there. Just make sure that the moisture is as much out as possible. Just going to strain that a little bit more. There we go. Then what we do is just with a masher, we're just going to squish that butternut down and mash it up. If you want to leave this chunky, you definitely can. There's no reason why you can't. Just bear in mind that the more chunky it is, the harder it will be to make your tortellinis at the end. So I would say a small to medium chunk, if you do want a chunky, is what you're looking for. As you can see, there's kind of small pieces in there, but a majority of it is actually nicely mashed up. Alright, so our onions are slowly been cooking in the back there. You can see them, they're almost there, they're sweating a little bit, probably a little bit warm is what we're looking for. Alright, so while those are busy cooking, we can start with our other ingredients. When you start mixing stuff into here, you generally want your butternut to be on the cooler side. It doesn't have to be cold, just cooler. Especially when you start adding things like your feta into it, because if your butternut is hot, your feta is just going to kind of start dissolving and start melting away, and you actually don't want that. You want there to be like little chunks of feta in there. So you're going to take a feta round, and you're just going to be roughly crumbing that all into there. And as you can see the amount that it makes, what you see there in terms of butternut, that was one small to medium butternut that made this much. So as you can see, you do make quite a lot. Alright, so you're going to make it... What are you doing?
Stealing feta.
I see. Alright, then as you can see, our onions are nicely starting to saute. Slight bit of color happening there. We're going to take our nutmeg, throw that nutmeg in there, and that will give a nice little bit more flavor. Just like that. That smell that comes off there is absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Oh, yum, that smells amazing.
Alright, then we're going to take our sage as well. We're going to put half our sage in, because we need the other half for the butter just now. Just like that. And we're just going to toss it all around. Now these onions have got a lot of flavor in them right now, so you don't want to go too crazy on other stuff. However, if you wanted to change it or make a very herby type of dish, you could add other type of herbs in here, whether it be thyme, rosemary, basil, anything like that would work.
Rick Decker. Hello, Jody. Just
Hello.
love this school.
Thank you, Mr. Rick Decker. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope to see you again sometime soon. Alright, so now we're going to, as you can see, our onions are nicely mixed with all the herbs and spices in there. Now we'll just take this and sprinkle this across the whole thing, just like that. Alright, now everything's in there. I'm probably going to throw a little bit more feta in there, because
all the feta.
Feta is, I was going to say feta is life, but
no, butter's life.
Butter's more life than feta. So just like that, nice like that. Again, if you want to add anything else to this, you could. If you want to add a protein like tofu or a chicken or beef or anything like that, you could definitely do that. One of my favorite tortellinis out there is actually a spinach and chorizo tortellini with feta. absolutely delicious. Alright. Lastly, you take a little bit of salt. You're going to season the butternut itself. Obviously, you're not trying to season the feta. That was 1 teaspoon of salt if you're curious. Then we're going to take a big spoon and we're just going to start mixing everything together. Just like this. There we go. Alright. As you can see the mixture, what it looks like.
Liani, wish I can eat that dish tonight. I tell you what, Liani, next time we have a meeting, I'll get Jodes to make us some.
There you go. Alright, so as you can see, the mixture is pretty much ready. Note how it's not wet. Note how it's relatively on the dry side. Before you make your tortellinis, you have to taste it. If you do not taste it, but when you make your tortellinis and you've put them together and you've cooked them, it's too late for them. You have to take a little piece. And don't, if you look here, if you look at the space here, don't go grab the biggest piece of feta you can find. You're not trying to taste the feta. You know what that tastes like. What you're trying to taste is the butternut itself. A few pieces of feta sprinkling around, and that's what you're going to taste. And how does that taste?
Oh, yummy.
Yeah? Fantastic. That's the kind of reaction you're generally looking for. If you want to add other stuff in here, like more cheese, whether it be a different type of cheese or anything like that, by all means, knock yourself out. This mixture, you can freeze.
Sandra says yes, please. So I'm afraid you're making tortellini for our next meeting.
So this mixture, you can freeze. So you could make 5 times this amount and have it in your freezer, and you can either use it not only in the tortellini, but you can make pies from it. You can make other stuff from this kind of mixture as well.
Oh, a quiche.
Yeah, a quiche would go very well with this.
Because that's yummy.
Yes. Alright, so the next little thing would be to roll the pasta out and actually make the tortellini itself. So first thing we're going to do is clean as you go.
Clean the mess.
Clean the mess. That's the first thing we do. There we go. Any other questions?
No, just my team wants you to make food for us.
Okay, that's right.
Guys, this looks incredible, it tastes incredible, and it smells amazing.
Yeah, there's one thing unfortunately you guys can't get from these videos is
the smell.
And my word, do these things smell good.
Look at that.
Alright. Okay, so we're putting our pasta roller together. Just going to be clamping it to the counter. Definitely quite important, because you don't want your machine to be wobbling all over the place while you're trying to roll the pasta. Alright, make sure you got it in, make sure it doesn't do that. It's about to say make sure it's in properly and it spins nicely on its own. As you can see, it's quite solid, it's not going anywhere. Alright, the next little bit is we need a little bit of flour just to be on the counter while we are busy doing this. There we go. So a little bit of flour on top of the machine itself, a little bit on this side, and the majority on this side, like that. Okay, I'll explain to you all that in a second, why it's all like this. There we go. Alright, this is your pasta. So the amount of pasta I made just now, that was 100 grams of flour and 1 egg. This is 400 grams of flour and 4 eggs. So you can see the big difference here. So it's 4 times the original recipe.
Apologies if I pronounce this wrong. Anika, can you add pine nuts?
To what?
I'm assuming to the filling?
To the filling? Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely you can. Alright, so as you can see, the pasta itself does stick a little bit to the cling wrap. That's not a problem at all. So there we go. And if you could smell it smells like a raw dough. Doesn't smell like anything wrong, and it should be super soft when you touch it. It should almost resemble skin-like, a little bit harder than skin-like. Feel it. It's...
No, do you know what it feels like for any moms out there? It feels like that cloud dough, that really cool Play-Doh.
Yeah, as you can see, it's sticking quite nicely, and that is why you have flour on your counter. You flatten it out. Now, first thing I must mention that this amount of dough, if you have to use it straight in the machine just as is, will get you so much dough, it would literally take someone out the room to actually make. So you need to divide this dough into at least 4 pieces. So we cut that straight down into a piece like that. There's 1, 2, and then 3. Doesn't matter which shape it is because we shape it again just before we roll it. Now when it comes to actually keeping your flour, so while you're busy doing what we're doing and you're obviously not using the 3 that aren't being used, you must make sure...
I got the name right!
You must make sure that they are covered with a cloth. It does not have to be a damp cloth. In fact, it shouldn't be a damp cloth because the pasta will stick to it. So just like that, no problems. Now with your 4th piece, you're going to dab it back into a little ball. Don't be too rough with it because you don't want to be remixing the whole thing. And you're just going to start stretching this all out until it is roughly about 2 or 3 centimeters thick. Just like that. It can be done in any direction. When it comes to your machine, you start on your highest point. This starts at 1.
Oh, hold on.
Some machines will start at 9 and actually go backwards and go down to actually show the size. But we're going to be starting at 1, like that. And what you do is you feed it through, and as you feed it through, you're obviously turning. There we go. And note how much longer it is straight away. As you can see, that much longer. When you put it down, make sure you get your flour scattered across the whole thing because it is a fresh pasta and therefore it will stick. Whenever you do a size, make sure that you do it twice. Just like that.
Okay, so you roll twice per setting.
Always twice per setting. So now we go a little bit smaller, like that. And now we're going to...
So we're on?
Now we're on 3.
Okay,
yes.
so we're skipping 1.
Yes. And then you do the whole thing again. Note how it can be on the side and I don't have to hold it as long as I'm turning it. And I gently
so you catch it,
bring it through here. And you'll notice just how much longer it actually gotten already. And again, same button, same number. And do it again. So from this point onwards, you'll notice it getting much bigger, much quicker as you go along. And here we go. And now it should get a really long piece coming from this. As you can see, it's getting really, really long now. And in terms of the size, it really comes down to what size you would like to do it. If you would like, you could make this, you could stop here and start making the tortellinis or pasta if you wanted to. But I want to go a little bit thinner as it's a little bit more enjoyable to eat instead of this clump of pasta. So
Mom
now,
will be very pleased if you do it nice and thin.
yes. So now we should have a really nice looking piece coming out of this. As you can see how nice and long this is getting. There we go. We do it again. And note how strong the pasta is. Note how I'm not really handling it too much, but it's just doing what it needs to do. It's not sticking to anything. It's not tearing. That is a sign of a good pasta straight away.
So quick question.
Yes.
From me, so
yes.
No one's typed this. At this point, do you, once you've got it to the thickness you want, would you then change the settings if you were going to cut this into a linguine or a...
Yes.
Okay,
you'd
roll it first thin and then you'd feed it through...
That machine, that's it.
This section.
This thing, yes. So if you see there, you'll see that is like a linguine and that's like a fettuccine kind of...
Okay, so you first roll it to how thick you want it and then you feed it through there to cut.
So right now we're sitting on 8 now, I believe. No, we're sitting on
7.
No, we're sitting on 8 now. Yes.
Okay.
So 8 will be the last one I want to roll. So we push that through, allow that to gently pile up over here, and that is the thickness I want. And this should also give a nice long little bit like that, just like that. So if you look at this, look up. So look straight up. So if you look at this and you look up like that, if you can see your hand behind it, like you can see my hand there.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, that is what you're looking for. That's the thickness you're looking for. If it's any thicker than that, then it probably won't.
It'll be quite
it'll be quite thicky, yeah. So thicky, yes. So because I only did once on number 8, I'm just going to roll it again. And this reason you do it twice is to ensure that it sticks to the right size. Because just like with any type of dough or bread, if you handle it, if you notice here, if you look here, you will actually notice how it's actually moving on its own. Very slightly.
Oh, that's true, it is.
But it is moving on its own. It's actually bringing itself back into its original form. So you need to work relatively quickly while busy trying to do this.
Yeah, you can see it creeping.
Yeah. Alright, the next thing you're going to need is a ramekin or cutter or mold or anything like that. As you can see, I'm just using a ramekin. And all you're going to be doing is making sure the ramekin can fit within the actual pastry itself, as you can see, like that. And all you're going to be doing is pushing it down and cutting out a round, just like that. As you can see, the pasta is very soft, and then you want to just plait them on the side there. If they are not perfectly round, it doesn't really matter. And then for this demonstration, I'll only do 3, just so you guys can see it, and then I'll cut it all out. Alright, just like that.
Yes, he has to make lots after this.
Yes.
Lots and lots and lots.
Oh, yeah. So gently cut it out if you don't want it to deform. Like that. Just like that. And again there. And as you can see, I'm hardly pushing any pressure down when it comes to cutting, because the pasta is not only so thin, but it's really, really soft. Just like that. Alright. In a situation like this, if you want to do this and stop here, you can leave it out, not a problem. That won't hurt it in any way, as long as you work relatively quickly. You have about 10-15 minutes of it staying out like this before it goes funny. Right, so the next little bit is essentially making the tortellinis itself. Just an FYI, if you wanted to make a ravioli, so if you look down here, if you wanted to make a ravioli, you would put your filling in the center, then you would take another round and you would place it on top. Okay. But I won't be showing you that today.
And then you crimp the edge.
And then you crimp the edge, yes. So next thing you'll need is a spoon, just a teaspoon, and that second egg that we had, you're going to crack into a bowl. Now you could use the whole egg, the egg white, or the egg yellow. It's your choice which one you want to use. I'm using the whole thing, starting with the egg yolk. Mix the whole thing up nicely. Right. And then what you need to remember is when you're trying to close these, you want to close them with a smile. So you start on the one side, and you can see just the very edge from one corner to the other corner. That's all you need.
Okay, so half of it basically.
Yeah, like a little smile basically.
Okay.
Alright. Then what you're going to be doing is you're going to be taking your mixture. Okay, and as you can see how much, it's almost a full teaspoon, too much. That's how much you must put in. Probably about a half teaspoon. You could probably put a tiny little bit more in there. And you'll see why you don't put a whole teaspoon in the next step. On the right hands. That's also very important. Whenever you do this, make sure that your fingers are dry. Make sure they are as dry as possible, because once you start closing them together, if your fingers are wet, they will stick to your fingers. So now what you're going to do is you're going to lift the side that you haven't put any egg on. You're going to gently just tap that down. You're going to lift that up, and you're going to gently fold it over like that. So if I turn this around, you can see there, a little bit fell out. There we go. So again, so you can all see from that side, you're going to take this and you're going to gently fold this over so that the end touches that eggy bit there. Okay. Once you've done your middle bit, then you can start slowly making your way across the sides. You want to make sure one side is closed first. Give it a gentle push down. Don't go and squeeze it as hard as you can. Note that my finger is a little bit sticky, and therefore this is actually not sticking properly. So I'm just using a dry cloth, pushing that down, and now I'm going to lift the whole thing up. Alright, so from here I know this side is now properly done. I'm going to continue, and I'm going to finish off that little bit there. That little bit you leave open if there's any air or anything in there.
Sorry, that's our kettle.
There you go. There we go. And now it's closed. So you get these like long half moons from there. Now this is where the tricky part comes, and this is the actual folding. Make sure your fingers have flour on them, just like this. Do the same thing with the other side, especially your thumbs. And now what you're going to be doing is the folding. So if I put this down, what you think of those old pirate hats. So what we do is we crimp the sides. So note how my fingers are. So if I take my fingers, put these two down, and I'll bring these two in just like that. So it's almost like a baby claw basically. So then what I do is I place that on top of my two fingers like that on the very end. And then I put my finger there and I crimp it just like that. Make sure that is nice and up. Then I do the exact same thing on the other side, push it down and crimp it just like that. So that now they're starting to look almost like a wrapped sweet almost. Now what you're going to do is, as you crimped it, so as this hand is, you literally turn your hand over. Note that my fingers aren't changing. I'm not bending my fingers or turning my fingers. As my fingers are, as I crimped like that, as they are, I turn them around like that. Okay, then I pinch there with my finger, and then I pull the whole thing around this finger here, just like that. There you go.
Belly buttons!
Then you gently push on the end, and then you'll have your tortellini over there. So now I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it a little bit faster so you guys can see how I do it. So from the beginning, and I'll do this again one more time after this so you guys can see it.
Is...
There you go. So a little bit of the egg on the side there, just like that. You're going to take a little bit of your mixture, and again your mixture can be anything you would like it to be. Get some feta in there. Here we go. And then again I'm just going to turn it around. I'm going to fold the whole thing over, gently push it down, tap the top piece first, go across to the one side. If a little bit squeezes out there, that's not a problem, just make sure you do close it properly. And then again, I'm just going to make sure there's no air in there and just squeeze it out. If you see like that, you can see an excess amount of egg. Just want to dab it down a little bit, because again, you don't want there to be too much liquid on the outside. Alright, so once you got that down, you're going to pinch it on the sides, just like that.
Yeah?
Yeah, and then you're going to fold it over. As simple as that.
It really does look like a belly button.
It kind of does, yeah. So one more time, and then we can go from there. Before we do one more, then I'm just going to get some water. Alright, any questions?
Sandra says, food art, cool.
Yeah. Alright, so we get our stove going. Get it on again. And just allow that to boil. Alright, so one more time. We're going to just do a little smiley face. We take our mixture, we plop it in the middle there, like that. Then we fold the whole thing over.
Jean says, looks delicious.
It is delicious. So then we flatten it all down.
Okay, so work from one side to the other to get the air out.
That's it. And then you squeeze it in nicely.
Dab excess egg.
Here we go.
And then you flour fingers.
Yes, dab it in a little bit of flour, just like that. Same on the other side. And then as you can see, like that, you pirate hat it, like that.
Arr.
Then you turn your fingers around, and you pull them across.
Around
like
your finger.
Around like
and
that.
squish.
And squish. Just like that. And kind of, as you can see, I'm not squeezing really hard, I'm just squeezing enough for it to bind together. And then that is your tortellini, just like that. That's probably the best one I've made so far, as you can see. Beautiful. Right, so as you can see, that is how you make tortellini. It's quite simple, quite easily. While I'm waiting for the water to boil, I'm going to show you how to make a ravioli while we at it, since we have everything here. So I'm just going to cut 2 out, just like that. And with the raviolis, you want your rounds to be as round as possible, because of what the type of dish it actually is. Alright, just like that. Gently lift it up. Here we go. Slap one down. Get your other piece, slap that one down. As you can see, nice and round. Now with the ravioli, what you want to do is very lightly brush the whole thing. Very lightly. Again, just like with the tortellini, if this is too much egg on here, then it will be too runny basically, and will actually have the opposite effect. So as you can see, just as light as I could have done it, got the egg on there. Now I'm going to take my filling, and you can be a little bit more generous with your filling because of the way it gets made.
So a heap teaspoon.
Yeah. I mean, you could probably do a little bit more, but I'm going to leave it just as is. Note I'm flattening it down, but also trying to keep my filling rounded. Just like that. So as you can see, like that. The next little bit is you're going to take your second piece, like that. You drop it as center as possible. You can straight onto it like that. And then working from one side, you're gently going to work from the end right down to your filling. So it's just like that. And you're going to start going around the whole thing and making sure there's no flaps or anything like that. Just like that. And then see this little crump here? That you can literally just push straight onto and push it out. And then all I'm doing is I'm just doing that with my hand, and just with this part of my hand, I'm just softly tapping it down, making sure that mixture is nicely joined together.
Looks like a little summer hat.
That's what it looks like. So then what you do is that. And that is essentially it. That's all you need to do.
Look at that.
There's your ravioli. So you lift this up very gently. And there you have a ravioli.
Cool.
As easy as that. Alright, so the water is cooking, or boiling, should I say. Oil is cooking technically. And I'll show you the next step. The next step is very simple. So like I said, cooks extremely quickly. So I'm going to throw my tortellini. So if it does come loose like this, you can just pull them together and squeeze them together. As simple as that. There you go. Done. So we'll pop these in. 1, 2, 3. As you can see, I've put no salt in here. I've put no oil in here. It's just boiling water as it is. So while those are going, I'm also going to throw my ravioli in there as well. The nice thing about not only the tortellinis but the raviolis is you can make a lot beforehand and freeze them. So just make sure they're not sticking at the bottom. There we go, they should be floating, and then you can drop your tortellini in, your ravioli. Alright.
So no oil, no salt, just plain water.
That's it. Alright, so while that's busy going, I'm going to get my pan ready again to make the sauce. Now the sauce is extremely easy. Again, this is just a really nice flavored sauce to go onto it. But if you wanted to make anything else like a creamy sauce or a pasta sauce or anything like that, you definitely can. So I'm just going to pop this over there. Let this get nice and warm. Okay. And then again with the butter, I'm just going to do a little bit. But you would use most of this butter. This butter there's 250 grams here. But you would use most of this to actually make a full dish. And what you'll do is you take a little piece like that, put it in there. Now you don't want to burn that butter, you just want to melt it down until it's really nice. Then you're going to add your sage to it, and then these will come straight out. You could drain them if you're making a lot, but you could take these straight out from the water and just put them straight into the butter itself. Alright, so go underneath there, make sure nothing's sticking. You can see not only have they expanded, but you can see the color has changed as well. If I show you a piece of the pasta just now, you can see
so they've gone white.
They've gone whitish like that. As you can see the difference between the two. And note how quickly they're cooking. They're cooking extremely quickly. Now that my butter is starting to melt nicely, I'm going to take the rest of my chopped sage. I'm going to throw it in there. And that's just going to infuse the butter and whatnot. So the sage is going to activate, and not activate, but it's going to enhance its flavor because it's warm. So again, you don't want to be burning the butter, so I'm just going to switch it off now. Believe it or not, these tortellinis are done.
Yum.
So all you're going to do now is you're going to take a scoop or spoon, a slotted spoon. I've got a classic little pasta spoon here. And then not the ravioli, but your tortellinis, just like that. Note how much bigger they are. I'll put them over here. And see how much bigger they are. They are much bigger than what they were. It might not seem like that on the camera. Then you're going to take these as they are and put them into the butter, just like that.
So make sure they're drained.
Make sure they are drained and get as much water out as possible. It's not a big problem if you do get water in the butter mixture. It's just better. Alright, so as you can see, super quick.
How long do you boil the pasta, Sandra?
It depends on its form, but if you look at this form, this has taken, I think it's been what, 35 to 45 seconds, right about there? Yeah, just under a minute. So with the bigger ravioli, you'll need a bigger spoon to get it out.
Okay, so essentially you wait for it to change color and expand.
Yes, I'm going to show you now how to check it. Note how much bigger this is now. So what you're looking for is you're going to squeeze the very sides of it. It should, if you squeeze, what's the right pressure? If you squeeze like press stick, if you can squeeze press stick, if you push your fingers together and you squeeze it, that should be what it's like. You should be able to push your fingers right through if you should. It's quite soft, also quite warm. Right, so then you put that straight into your butter there.
And that's much bigger because, I mean, look at that.
Yeah, you can see the size is much bigger. So now I'm going to switch it back on. I'm going to get that butter nice and warm. You can see how it's slightly starting to fry there. Then all we're going to do is take this, mix it around, and start tossing it around. Woo! And note how your tortellinis and everything start get coated very, very nicely. Now we're just going to let it sit in there for just a minute, just to start frying off nicely. questions or anything like that?
No.
Nothing?
Do you want me to take it off?
Yeah, just a little bit more, a little bit more. Alright, so now we can take it off. You don't want to be frying these. You could fry them if you really wanted to, but you don't want to be frying these too much because they'll go crispy. Alright, then you're going to take your plate and you're going to start. Where's that spoon I have?
That one.
No, the other one. So again guys, the smell of this is absolutely amazing. So we can just flop that over. You want to have the top, as you can see, it looks like it's something. Put that piece in the middle there. Put your tortellinis around. Just like that. Just like that.
Oh, that
and then any butter or anything in your pan, you can just drizzle around the whole thing, just like that. And then that's it. Voila! You have made fresh pasteured tortellinis with a butternut and feta filling. Again, you can change the filling to anything you would like to, but as you can see, making this kind of stuff is not that difficult. It does take a little bit of time and practice, but the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. Just a reminder, you guys, have a look at our website for not only the recipes, but for other stuff that we are doing, such as virtual cooking classes. They are really cool, really informative, really interesting to do. And we can cover anything you would like to cover. So thank you again for tuning in and watching us. I hope to see you guys next time, and hopefully the lockdown will be over soon, so I hope to see you guys in the cooking school again. Thank you very much. Bye bye.